The BZ-176 has made its way into the game and is obtainable via the Ultimate Season Pass. This menace on PC created worry about what it would be capable of when it makes its way onto console. So how much do you really have to worry about? This tank does rock a large 160mm gun. This is great for overmatching up to 53mm plates, which opens up a lot of potential roof overmatchings. It deals 650 damage with its singular AP round and 800 damage with its singular HE round. With that 650 damage and its 25-second base reload, its DPM value is a fine 1560. For such high damage, having DPM of a 360 Alpha German tank doesn't seem so bad. That's a long reload for the enemy to take advantage of, that's for sure. And you have to pen your round to do that damage too with the AP, but you only have 208mm of penetration on it. But remember that you can overmatch 50mm plates. That will come in handy quite often. And the HE doesn't have the insane pen it has on PC, instead it only has 80mm of HE pen. It'll still do decent splash damage though, unless you find a target that you can actually pen. Remember too, we do not have HE 2.0 in our game, so be careful shooting at tracks when aiming at the side of tanks. The shell speeds of both of these rounds say 860 for the AP and 760 for the HE, but trust me, when playing the tank, they felt more like 1000 shell speed rounds. Something about them did not feel sub 900 to me. It obviously could just be a feel thing, but them feeling off to me is something I think that I should point out at the very least. It did not feel bad to snipe in this tank because of that, but that's no thanks to its gun handling, because you have a piss poor 0.46 base accuracy value, and this was felt a lot in my games, alongside its 3.5 seconds of aim time. It has a 160mm gun at tier 8, so it is expected, but even with 6.0 accuracy, it did truly feel derpy, which I actually think is a good thing these days. One scary thing about this tank though is its flexibility with its 10 degrees of gun depression, making it great at working ridges that normally only things like chieftains could work. And their armor holds up when doing so too. With 10 degrees of gun depression, its 250mm flat, but swept back turret cheeks will work wonderfully well against most tanks that you will fight. Really the only thing going through the face of this, while it's using its gun depression to the fullest, are tank destroyers with really high heat pen, or maybe even something like the M60. Otherwise, good luck everyone else. If not using its gun depression and you can see its roof, it's actually only 41mm, but of course being a roof, it's really well angled, but overmatchable. But not by 122mm or lower. Instead, 130s or higher will be able to overmatch this tank's roof, which means you can overmatch yourself when playing this tank. And if you do play it, the likelihood of seeing other BZs is pretty high at the moment, so make sure to aim for those roofs for easy pens. As for the hull of this tank, it's pretty darn good. It has a 100mm well-angled upper plate and a 240mm mid plate. The lower plate is definitely an obvious weak point, being only 100mm, but you will have the enemy occasionally not pen you by accidentally hitting that 240 mid plate instead. This is a tank where the hull extends over the tracks, so if you're fighting a hull down BZ, but he overpeaks enough so that you can see his tracks, shoot up into them to hit this flap on its underside where it's only 25mm thick. Despite being wide too, it can side scrape fairly well, but it's also easy to over angle. Its side armor is 100mm thick behind the tracks and 152mm thick above the tracks, so the best way to side scrape is having the gun still over the front of the hull just barely, as if the gun overlaps the tracks, it means you might be over angling. Of course that means when you peek you're also giving up your lower plate. And I don't normally talk about the rear side of tanks, but these days it's kind of important, as if you're a heavy tank but your rear isn't thick enough, vigilantes can shred you in seconds. And this one does not have enough armor to negate the vigilante, so if you're bottom tier and a vigilante is running at you, don't ignore it. Keep your armor to it and don't let it get behind you. It will take your 1550 HP away very quickly. That 1550 HP of which is pretty much average for a tier 8 heavy tank. What isn't average for your tier 8 heavy tanks is its speeds, and that's because this tank gets the new rocket booster mechanic. Its baseline statistics are a 30km/h top forward speed and 15 reverse speed, with its 600 horsepower that gives it a 10.5 power to weight ratio. This is pretty slow, pretty close to some super heavies too, but without the insane armor and HP of them. But of course, those rocket boosters are what sets it apart. When active, you can reach speeds up to 45 kilometers an hour, which allows a tank of this armor profile to get into positions relatively fast. Of course, if that's what you use your boosts for, but you're limited to only 4 boosts in a match, with each one lasting 10 seconds and having a 4-second cooldown between each activation, meaning you only get 40 seconds of 45 kilometer hour speed boosting in a match, so use them wisely. Some maps can take all 4 boosters to get into spots that other tanks can also get into in the same amount of time, but of course you have a harder hitting gun with great armor and gun depression, so it's nice to get into those fights as fast as other less armored but faster tanks would get to them. It's also really good at going up hills, by the way. Meanwhile, you can expect your spotting capabilities to not be anything special, and they're not. You actually have the lower end of view range with only 380 meters, and your camo values are typically heavy at 421 moving and 398 still. Oddly enough, unlike a speed mode tank that loses camo when going fast, your camo circle doesn't get any bigger when using rocket boosters, meaning your camo doesn't get worse when using them. Not that it'll matter or come into play really, but I thought it was an interesting quirk worth mentioning. With all that being said, is the BZ worth getting? Of course it is. It's a novel tank with a hard-hitting gun at tier 8. It does feel derpy, but it's still very much usable in this day and age. And its armor profile is quite forgiving, unless you're going up against knowledgeable players with large caliber guns. The rocket boosters are fun and a nice mini-game challenge to determine when the right time to use them are. The low pen and lack of a premium round does hurt though, and the HE not having PC's pen is smart in my eyes, but it wasn't given anything to make up for that loss in pen. So honestly, I think they should have given that 225mm of HE pen it had on PC to its AP round. So instead of 208 AP, it was 225. This is still low given you have no premium round to use when you need more pen, but having 225 would make it just slightly more reliable to make up for that loss of HE pen. But really, that's my only gripe, as even though the accuracy can get frustrating at times, especially for me, it feels deserved for a 160mm gun on a tier 8. By not having the HE round with more pen than its AP round, I think this tank is done fairly well, and I would recommend picking it up through the Ultimate Season Pass. Side note, it's good to see we're starting the year off with a tier 8 in the Ult Pass instead of a tier 10. We got one of those last year, and I can only hope the trend continues since we're getting a new tech tree line every season. Before we get into the gameplay though, let's go over my loadout. Now, equipment wise, I actually tried a few different loadouts. I firstly set up with an ammo swapper, gun rammer, and vents, but at some point removed my outlines for a gun laying drive. Then later on removed the gun laying drive for vertical stabilizers, and it felt really nice with the vert stabs. But sometimes having to shoot through trees made it hard without outlines. With a gun like this, I want an ammo swapper and the best reload possible, but I also want my vert stabs. I could possibly have gone without vents, but vents betters my reload and gun handling, so I didn't want to give that up either. Personally, this tank, more than any other, really makes me want intuition as a commander perk over the ammo swapper equipment, because I would run that with vert stabs, rammer, and vents, and get to keep my outlines. I'm sure there will be some people that want speed equipment too to better that top speed and maybe get more out of your rocket boosters, but for me, until we get a turbocharger, I was not going to try that myself. The gun is something you use the whole battle, while the rockets are of limited use. Anyway, consumables were the usual premium repair kit, food rations, and premium medkit. Here too, you could try fuel instead of a medkit and just have pain tolerance on your commander instead of situational awareness, but I did not try that out either because I wasn't going to spend gold on respecking a commander, but honestly I think that is the play. Which my commander ran with the 7 perks I usually use: 6th Sense, Rapid Loading, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Born Leader, Situational Awareness, which again you could remove for pain tolerance, and 2 perks for heavy tanks, Supply Conservation, and Controlled Impact of course. The idea of ramming with the rocket boosters is an obvious one to me, but I was only able to pull it off once. And let me show you that ram kill real quick. Now we're here on the new map Ardennes, and I was rushing back to base to try and protect it, but I took a bad route and ended up in sort of a potential crossfire, as there are tanks to my right that I know of, but I have to worry about this AMX, who at this point I'm not using outlines, you can see. Kind of hard to see through the trees, but luckily I still hit his cupola and he doesn't pen me. I then decide, let me use my one of 2 remaining rocket boosters to get next to this ridge so that I can hide my lower plate, and then all I have to worry about is my cupola. So what am I doing? I'm wiggling, making it harder for him to aim, making it harder for him to hit. And he doesn't take the shot. I load the HE with my ammo swapper and finish him off since I left him on 60 HP. IS-22 bounces me. He's now going to get shot at by my teammate, which means I can now focus on my right. Again, with ammo swapper, I have HE loaded, but I realize I don't know if I could pen the lower plate of an E75 TS with only 80mm of HE, and he's going to give it to me, so I'm going to load the AP, low roll for 591. My teammate shoots him, I use the rocket booster, and we get the eye for an eye ram kill. So that is the only time that I have ram killed someone with the rocket booster. Pretty neat. This next match is a snippet of a game. I might be showing you the beginning here, but I'm not going to show you every part of the game. I'm only showing you the fact here that I'm using all 4 rocket boosters to get to the cap circle. Now, it is encounter, which means we spawn a little bit further south than we normally would. And I'm a little bit farther from the hill, but we have 4 rocket boosters to utilize. And you can see what tanks we're passing and what tanks we're going to pass, but also what tanks are going to get there at the same time of us. And you can see that with my armor profile, getting there at the same time as something like an IS-22 is pretty good. 10 degrees of gun depression and the good armor that this thing has, using the rocket boosters to get into the fights against tanks with lesser armor, but with better speeds, is a benefit. And that's exactly what we're doing here on Malinovka. Of course, other BZs are going to think the same thing, and they're going to get up to the hill as well, though. So you get there at the same time as other tanks with lesser armor that you can potentially abuse until their reinforcements arrive, right? But then you also have to contend with other BZs. But remember, the reason I'm showing this game snippet is because of the roof overmatching and sort of the accuracy of the tank. There's 2 BZs up on the hill. We're going to aim for the right side cupola because the turret roof of this tank actually like slopes upwards near the back. So even when using your gun depression, the roof becomes visible just slightly. So you aim for the cupola so that if you miss the roof, which is a, you know, thin angle to hit, you at least still could hit a cupola. And if you end up not hitting the cupola, but you hit the roof, you overmatch. This guy just gives me his side, and I take the shot because it was the only shot I was going to get, and luckily I hit it. But overmatching BZs is how you're going to counter other BZs, especially if they don't know they can do it to you. If they're looking at your frontal face armor, they're looking at trying to get your lower plate as they might think that's the only thing they can pen, you're going to win. You're going to win the fights against other BZs. I don't know if I'm hitting the cupolas here or overmatching, but it doesn't matter. I'm doing damage, right? 10 degrees of gun depression here, too, is going to allow me to poke this ridge pretty well. I want to shoot the atomic. I've already taken a shot at him, but missed. But I'm just not tall enough with this little lip in front of me. But 10 degrees of gun depression is good enough so that I'm not going to give this guy another shot. Just pen his side. Again, 160mm can overmatch 53mm plates or lower. And so that means I can overmatch BZ's 41mm roofs. Again, we mentioned 122mm cannot do that, but 130s and higher can. There's also a few calibers that I failed to mention there, and that is the 12-8s of Germans. They can overmatch the roof of this tank. So the VK-101P, if he has the 12-8, can actually pen the roof of a BZ. Something like the Tier 9 French heavy tank has a 127mm, so it can actually overmatch the roof of the BZ-176. But being able to overmatch yourself is very, very useful. So of course, when you're playing other tanks, be sure to think of that. Be sure to try and recognize what caliber you have, and if you're fighting a BZ, whether or not you can overmatch it. There's still a cupola, though, for better accuracy and lower caliber guns to aim for. This second snippet of a match, I'm showcasing, well, firstly here because this is something you can do, obviously, with the rocket boosters, is try and get around this rock on Karelia quickly. And it was useful. I have another rocket booster. I took 2 to get to that corner. I took 1 to get around it. And now I'm taking my 4th so that it can get up this hill quick enough to be able to shoot this BZ before he backs up with only 15 kilometers an hour. Now, of course, the rocket boosters only helps you going forward, so he can't, like, rocket booster backwards. In fact, going backwards, I believe, is actually impossible, as the rocket boosters will propel you forward at least 1 to 2 kilometers an hour when you're stationary. Going backwards, it's just going to stop you. It's not really going to actually let you go backwards. That shot you just saw, though, with the Cobra, what I want to show this snippet for isn't just the use of rocket boosters, getting into position and being able to shoot someone before they get away, but it's for the accuracy and the shell speed. Despite being 4.6, having to shoot at the sides of targets at distance is much easier than shooting at weak points at mid distances, because the weak points are obviously smaller. So I'm shooting at the side of a Cobra. But if you notice the shell speed, and watch it here again, the shell speed says 860, but look how quickly it gets there. That's 500 meters distance, by the way. When we were aiming at him in the first place, it was 500 and something meters. The shell speed does not feel like 860 to me. Again, it could be just a me thing, but here's 560 meters. We're hitting it blind, and it got there pretty quickly after releasing the round out of the gun. I don't know about you. It feels like 1000 to me. It doesn't feel like 860. Again, I'm saying this is a feel thing, though. But it's good. It's a positive thing. Despite being sub 900 shell speeds, it doesn't feel like it. So, make that what you will. There was some sniping. But now we're going to get into the actual full games. And I have two of them to show you today. I have way more to show, but I don't want this video to be super long. So what I'm doing now is, if I have extra gameplay footage for specific tanks from the reviews, I'm now putting those into other videos. Members only get extra content if they want to watch it. Anyway, this is my second to last game in the tank or something like that on Ghost Town. Pretty good map for this tank. Small, can make use of the rocket boosters around certain lanes, but also if I'm out of rocket boosters, which I will run out of, it's at least a close quarters map that my 30 kilometer an hour top speed and 600 horsepower won't feel so crap. You know what I mean? Either way, you see another BZ using his rocket boosters to get here. Lots of BZs out, so that will, when that goes down, the BZ will start to feel way more novel and fun. Here, we're not using the outlines you can see, and we actually bounced the Mantis. The Mantis has a T-69's turret, and if I didn't aim at the hole, well, I hit its turret or gun or something, and we bounced it. Had we gotten that damage, though, it would have been a beautiful game. It's still gonna be a beautiful game, as I'm not scared of a Mantis, and this IS-22 is gonna give me a shot. Again, no outlines. Hard to see through these tree lines, but I'm at that point, I was hoping my red reticle wasn't his gun, which is longer than its hull, but it was his drive wheel, and it was, thank goodness. TS5 around the corner with the Mantis. I'm gonna reverse side scrape after my teammate kills the Mantis, which gives me actually cover against the TS5, as the TS5 is taller than the Mantis. Before I shoot the TS5, though, get rid of a Draugen who got a little too aggressive. TS5 does have hold down cover, but as I was about to say, he's taller than the Mantis, which means I can still at least see his cupola, if only there wasn't smoke and I wasn't running no outlines. Luckily, I could still see it sort of, and I just went with it. 208 millimeters of pen is enough to go through it as well, which, thank goodness. Here I try and get a ram kill. I only do 133 damage though. And then, because I know his guns were in my way, I didn't want it to be eaten up by, or my AP round to be eaten up by the gun. So I went with an HE round, tried to shoot between the guns, still hit the guns though. So only like 37 damage. Gonna ignore him, as my team should take him out. They do. Load the AP round and pen this Patriot through his tracks. I don't know if the sides on that Patriot are weak enough for me to have done that, but we did it. So maybe, I don't know. I don't want to speculate that they're overmatchable if I'm not knowledgeable enough, but I gotta go check out that Patriot. He's going to just drive out in the side, though. Give me another shot. I don't know why I shot an HE that round there. Thought maybe it was enough to just kill him, thinking he was going to run at me rather than give me his side. AP would have gone through there easily, though. T29 now wants to poke up. He doesn't recognize that I'm here. Put a round into him. Track him, actually, but he instantly repairs it. 685 damage, and now he's gone. Now, unfortunately, can't get damage on the Skoda T56 because he decides that he wants to go for a dive off the cliff. Good for him. Another T32 American tank to shoot at in the side here. He was starting to turn his armor, but then decides to stop, and that was a mistake for him because it gave me his side for me to shoot. 42, 45 damage. Now, annoyingly here, at the end of this match, everything dies except for 2 tanks in the corner to the right. I still have 1 rocket booster. So, to get to the tanks quickly, I decide I'm going to use it. But it's only 10 seconds, and it only makes me go 45, so it's not like I'm going insanely fast. By the way, turning in rocket booster mode is very hard. But, as you saw there, I was able to turn the corner. How did I do that? You use the handbrake. Turning with the stick will not work. It's the biggest turn art on any tank. But if you use the handbrake, you can get a sharp turn. But I'm just not quick enough to get here before the Panzerjäger and M42 rip apart the last tank. So that's all we get. A few bounces, a few unlucky shots. HE when I didn't need to, but we still did 4,200 damage and 1,500 base XP. So that was a pretty nice game. Obviously shows the potential of the tank. Quick match. Very quick match. No bots, despite the American tanks sort of giving me their sides for free. But there you go. The next game is my highest damage game in the tank. I don't even think I can ace this tank this week, so I wasn't trying to. I was told that 1779 base XP was a second class, so I wasn't going to try and even get a first class. Obviously, it's province, so what are we going to do with our rocket booster? Yep, that is correct. We're going to use them to get across the middle of the map so that we can get to the top left. It's going to take multiple rocket boosters to do so, though, and even then, it's still going to take a while to get there, and we're going to get spotted. Obviously. But again, you see, my circle's not getting any bigger, so if there wasn't a light tank 6 feet from us to our left, we wouldn't get spotted, even using the rocket booster. So you don't have to worry about like crossing big open fields and then making your camo so bad that anything can spot you with the rocket boosters. But he's still alive here. I try and see if I can get a shot. Doesn't matter, he's dead, but he got to spot me. Doesn't matter though, we're safe now. So we hope. We still have 2 rocket boosters left, and we're going to use one as soon as we get around this corner, so that if we do get spotted, which we're going to, because look, there's a tank destroyer about to proxy spot us above us, we at least don't get shot in the back of the head, right? That's the goal. Rocket boost right past this bush line, quick as possible, get into position. That's what these rocket boosters are good for. I want to try and save one in most of my games so that I don't, so that I can ram something, but I need to stop doing that. Just use them for mobility sakes. Now, even though 90% of our reticle was T23 E3 there, we somehow hit the dirt. And after watching this back now and seeing that, it actually kind of pisses me off because we would have done way more damage. Grom doesn't have the gun depression to hit a good shot on us. We overpeak just a little bit so we can see his lower plate. With 10 degrees of gun depression, we do hit it. Do 631 to him. He does way more damage to us, though, as a tier 8 tank with 700 alpha damage. I'm trying to see if I need to kill him or not. As soon as he's gone, I'm rocket boostering fast. 800 HE damage sounds like a lot. And I'm trying to splash for a lot, but I didn't there. I go now across the sight lines of the tanks to my left with the last rocket booster remaining, trying to get to this mutz. I loaded HE, potentially seeing if 80 was enough. It is not. At this point, this was a match that was before the Ghost Town map, so while on Ghost Town, I wasn't using outlines. Here, I do. So, with the pen indicator, I could see that 80 was not enough for the whole of the muds. He really doesn't want me to kill him, so he's just gonna overpeak and die to anybody else rather than just running around me and trying to get damage while I'm on reload. You know, spite is one hell of a thing in this game. Another shot that I wish would have penned, because oh my god, watching this back and seeing the shots that should have penned, I could have had so much more damage. That T-23E3, this VK-101P, who just gave us his side and we hit his turret instead of his side. Aggravating. Super aggravating. This match, though, is going to showcase something that I showcased in one of the snippets for Malinovka, and that is BZ roof overmatching. We're sitting there waiting for the VK-101P to repo, but he's not going to. Also notice where the rest of my team is. Our light tank is still in our spawn. 2 heavies are still in our spawn. Artie is, like, oddly out in the open, not even behind a building. Doesn't matter. 1500 damage, we want more. Should be like, what, double that by now, but whatever. I can't go back and make sure those shots hit so that I could have had a good game, but I wish they did, man. We have the side of a tank. We're gonna fully aim since he's not moving. If he would have squirmed, if he would have shown that he was gonna move, we would have shot early. But he lets us fully aim. We get a nice high pen on, or not a high pen, but a high roll of damage on him. We put our gun up in the air just so that our gun flap isn't going down, and to see if we could block our cupola. BZ, I'm noticing, and then I go for the roof. Okay. Easy. Easy. Now we're at 3,000 damage. It's 5 to 8 though. I'm hoping my team holds out on the other side, and these guys just let me reload and finish them off. But it looks like it's not happening. Medium tank down in the middle ridge now, full HP. We load the AP once again, trying to hit that cupola, or the roof of the BZ, but he decides to hide for now. Now he comes out to push, and we snap it. Snap it. That shell speed truly does not feel very slow. And I mean, to be fair, like, 860 is not super slow in the first place. You know, you have Charlemagne's with low shell speed, you have the bar, which got a buff. Here we load HE, shoot the side of the tank. We do pen, but we low roll by 6. Doesn't matter, because we still couldn't even one-shot him with our HE round, which is super annoying. 800 HE damage, and not one-shot and equal to your artillery. Super fun stuff. 4 to 8, really hoping my team just does something, but now they're all dead on the other side. And now it's 2 to 7 after I take out this BZ. And what's the other tank with me? Another high damage, full HP Caliban. Christ. We've done 4,500 damage now. Can we do some more? Another BZ pokes himself. I load the AP because he gave me a side. Bounced off his up plate because his reverse speed was just enough. Should have loaded the HE and that would have killed him. Another mistake this game, but I'm still showcasing this game because it's my highest damage game. So that's my 3rd mistake. Now I load the HE hoping he pokes, but it doesn't seem like he's gonna poke, which is really upsetting. Come on, poke. Another BZ enters the fray. Full HP. Gives me his roof, so I take it. We could easily ammo rack in this tank if we ran Deadeye too. That's another thing you should probably put on this vehicle if you're going to spec specifically into it. But now that low HP BZ made it across. And so now I'm waiting to see what I could do. Well, not really anything. Artie's below me. What I should have done here in hindsight is gone down the stairs there and got behind these guys. But we've done 5,000 damage. Dreadnought's coming around the corner. I don't know if the Dreadnought knows I'm here, but I'm going to sit here with HE loaded because I don't want to, you know, hit his gun or anything and not pen. Instead, we just HE him for 170 damage and get rid of him. The other BZ shows up. I load the AP. He shoots his shot. 5 seconds. His reverse speed's really bad. Aim for that roof yet again. Caliban shoots him. I don't know. Well, I got the kill. Caliban didn't do too much because we got like 500 damage out of that. But now they're capping. And man, sometimes going back and watching your games that were the best and realizing that they could have been better, oh, it's kind of heartbreaking, man. At this point, we're at 5690 damage. Again, if we hit that T23E3 with that AP round, if we hit the VK101P with the AP round, if we HE'd that BZ, right, we would be above 7,000 damage. But we're just not that good, I guess. RNG said no to the VK shot, and same with the T23E3 shot. I made the mistake of loading AP to try and shoot the side of that BZ, and now that BZ's in the cap circle, by the way. So had I killed him with HE, you know, we'd have more time to do something here. I saw a cap reset, and in my head, that was enough time for me to think of something. I couldn't think of anything. I was waiting to see if this tiger would push. Now I realize we have no time. I go around the corner, get tigered. I go to load HE. I go to see he gives me his side. I'm making bad plays. He's now all of a sudden turned his side towards me, even though he was just turned away. Super quick turn speed. Just didn't get the AP shot into the side of his turret. He was just wiggling far too much. 208's not enough. 160's not enough. And they cap us out. It was just... We got third place, though. Right? If Cone wasn't garbage at the game, if RNG didn't screw him over, if the tank was slightly more accurate, if 6.0 did anything, we got our first class on a loss. Maybe we could have won this if I was good at the game. Maybe we could have aced it. Sad to see that the 7,000 damage potential was right there, but it is what it is. BZ's a good tank. It is not a very easy tank to play, and it is punishing if you make the mistakes that I did. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.